It's time to down tools for a bit. Welcome to the Toolshed, the influential podcast for anyone and everyone involved in the building industry. Here's your host, Mick Hawes.
Hey folks, welcome to another episode of the Toolshed. In this episode, I'm going to be speaking to Brett Crowther, and he is a part of what's called the Trade Alliance Group. And I believe that it started out life as a buyers group, but I also believe it's more than that these days. And I'm really looking forward to delving into the history and how it came about, and also the many benefits that builders can experience by being part of a group like this. And if you've never been on this podcast before, welcome. If you have been on this podcast before, you will know that our purpose is to try and find people and philosophies and platforms and tools and anything that is going to make the journey of the owner of a building business a little smoother, a little more enjoyable, a little more profitable, all of those good things. So I'd like to welcome to the podcast Mr. Brett Crowther. There he is right there. Welcome to the podcast, Brett. How are you doing, and where do I find you today? What's your location?
Thank you. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. I am from Samford, northwest of Brisbane. So yeah, Brisbane's home base, but we're helping builders and tradies in Victoria and starting in Sydney as well. So eastern states.
Oh, perfect. And are you a fan of panda bears? I noticed there's one that you've got sitting there keeping you company.
You've noticed, yeah, my wife decorated my office, believe it or not.
Well, that's all right. Our corporate colours scheme is black and white, so it fits in there perfectly. So reading about the history of Trade Alliance Group, it says that it was originally formed by Kev Crowther.
Correct.
You're Brett Crowther. I'm assuming that you're related some way. It's just a wild guess. Tell us the relationship.
Yes. So my father started the business some 25 years ago.
Wow.
And yeah, that I just realized I'm starting to get old. So
Sorry, I apologize for bringing that up.
he was doing his thing, and I was at uni at the time. And he was a small builder who knew how to build and didn't know much of the behind the scenes stuff. I was studying accounting and IT, and so I was able to help him with the books, and actually built the first database that the whole business ran on. And so that's how I got started. And over the years, he sort of wanted less and less to do with that side of things, and eventually he let me run the show. And so we're here. I haven't been a builder myself, but I've grown up with a father as a builder who would drag me onto job sites. I was part of the cleanup crew, so I've seen a few things. I've had some experience, and worked alongside him for many years.
Well, we have that in common as well. I've never been a builder, but my dad was. I started life out as an electrician, and have been in and around the building game for a long time. I always like to try and find out what was the impetus, what was the reason that Trade Alliance Group got started. So I'm imagining that your dad saw a problem or an opportunity, one of them, or both, and that was kind of the impetus to get it started. So is he made you aware in your conversations as to why the Trade Alliance Group got started?
Most certainly. So he tells the story. He was on a roof one day in the middle of summer, so it was 45 degrees on the roof. You can only spend 10 minutes on the roof without having a 10-minute break. No, the hot summer. And he basically turned to his building partner at the time and said, "We can't keep doing this." But only knowing building, he sort of thought, well, what else can we do? How can we help other small builders in a similar situation? And identified straight away that it's the large builders that have all of the buying power. They just tell the supplier, "Hey, I'm going to pay you this for your product," and that's the way it goes. And so from there, thought, well, what if we can get a whole lot of builders together? Then we can help each other get better pricing, because the small guys just can't compete on price with the big guys. So that was where it all started.
Wow. I mean, it's just really cool that he had that what we'd call a blinding flash of the obvious on the roof. It was like, you can't keep doing this. But I love the way he kind of went, instead of how do we help ourselves, how do we help others? I just love that whole approach to things. I learnt many years ago, I think it was Zig Ziglar who said, if you help enough other people get what they want, you'll get what you want in life. And I think that's a very, very true thing. So I love that. What were some of the challenges that maybe you've been told about or you witnessed in your dad pulling this together? Because it's obviously a successful group today, but very rarely is it, oh, this is a good idea and there are no hurdles or roadblocks or speed bumps along the way, and it just happens exactly the way you thought. So what was the journey like? What were some of the challenges that your father experienced putting this together?
Yeah, great question. I mean, just starting any I take my hat off to anyone who starts their own business. I haven't done that, and just the amount of blood, sweat, and tears that goes into it
Yeah.
is unbelievable. So he had to keep building for another few years. So he'd start at 6 o'clock in the morning. He'd start ringing through the yellow pages at lunch. He'd ring through the yellow pages after work. He'd ring through. So he just every spare moment for the first 2 years or so, he'd be working and trying to build this side hustle. And so, yeah, I just couldn't imagine going through that. So we did that for a few years with a partner at the time, and they managed to get themselves established enough so that both of them could stop working on the tools and go full time. It was maybe 6 or 12 months later that there were challenges in the business partnership, and so they actually split, and my dad's partner kept the whole business and dad had to start again. And so this isn't even the original business. This is the second buying group that my father had to build from scratch while he was working. So yeah, just take my hat off. I don't know how any of you start a business, but yeah, doing it twice, that takes a lot of metal.
Well, I mean, and it's crazy, and the something that we talk about a lot on the podcast and a lot with our black belt members is the original reason why somebody did start a business. And generally the three motivating reasons are, I'm going to make more money running a business for myself, I'm going to have more time running a business for myself, and I can choose who I work for and when I work and all of that sort of stuff. So I have a lot more freedom of choice and all of that sort of stuff. None of those three things ever come true in most cases. What was your dad's experience with that? Like, was it a bit of a struggle in the beginning? What was it like?
Oh, absolutely. It was years and years of just hard work. And we had my father had the great idea early on to expand beyond Brisbane as well, so set up in Victoria. So we've been in Victoria for 17, 18 years, but just getting that started, he was in Brisbane, flying to Melbourne and trying to talk to suppliers, get members started. We put someone on the ground eventually, but even that took another 2 or 3 years to become self-sufficient financially. So it was never, hey, we've got so much money, we don't know what to do with it. It was, yeah, let's, how do we use this the most efficiently? And of course, part of that conversation then is who's the cheapest person we can find to help us get there. And that has its own problems.
Yeah. From the builder's point of view, because in my introduction, and I say it most times in the introduction, we're looking for things that are going to help the builder. Now, I know in your case there are benefits for the suppliers that we'll talk about. We'll talk about that process, but what are the benefits for the builder / carpenter from your perspective? What have you seen that really benefits the builder by being part of a group like TAG?
Yeah, so we commonly branded ourselves as a buying group. And so obviously the purpose of a buying group is to get better prices than you could otherwise. So that's still a cornerstone of our philosophy. However, price isn't everything.
Correct.
But you tell a builder what's the most important thing. Tell a tradie what's the most important thing in a supplier. They say price. So it is the most it is the first thing that comes to their
Yeah,
mind, but it is actually not the most important thing.
correct.
So if you say, okay, you want the best price, does it matter if it shows up late? Does it matter if it's damaged? Does it matter?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Doesn't
yeah.
matter if it's
Okay.
damaged. That's a good one. Do you mind
So
if
you
it's damaged? It's
all
cheap,
of
but do you
these.
mind if it's broken?
That's right. That's right. And so, yes, price, but it's quality, it's reliability, it's speed of quoting, it's all of those things. And
Mm,
so, the suppliers that we have, while they're definitely competitive suppliers, they're not going to be the cheapest because we know those other things are important, whether a builder wants to admit it or not. So, it's those reliable, competitive, quality suppliers. And better yet, these suppliers are all trusted by the rest of the members in the group. So, we've got our suppliers all get peer reviewed basically, so we
yeah,
ask our members for feedback on all these suppliers so that you can trust that other members are enjoying using this supplier. It's not just someone that we're pushing because we get a kickback or something. Like,
yeah,
that it's actually ticking the boxes for other builders just like you.
yeah. Um, and I suspect like there's got to be something in it for the supplier as well. And I assume that, I guess they get the opportunity to get leads that they wouldn't have ordinarily got or would have got, but it would have cost them, significant money to market to get those leads. So there's that. What other benefits does the supplier get by being part of the group as well? Hey, I'm Mick Hawes from Builders Business Black Belt, and I hope you're enjoying this episode of the Toolshed podcast. I've got something super exciting I want to share with you. We've got a place that's got a whole bunch more free resources to help you with your building business. In fact, there's a whole other podcast that gives you specific training that will help you get more free time, more profit, and more enjoyment from your building business. And it's called, funnily enough, the Toolshed. It's free to join, and it's full of other success-focused builders. And I invite you to join us in the Toolshed, where you can ask me questions and get guidance and support from other successful builders. Just click the link in the description to join, and I'll see you in there. I hope you enjoy the rest of this podcast.
Yeah, it basically, we become an extension of the supplier's sales force. Obviously, they need to get through the checklist we have to make sure they're a quality, reliable supplier.
Yeah.
But once we've ticked those off, then we're bringing them leads. We're helping put plans in front of them for them to quote. So we're giving them all these opportunities. We're an extension of their marketing and sales function, and we're a heck of a lot cheaper than putting on a full-time staff themselves. So we've got thousands of members across both states, and we're putting them in front of putting the supplier in front of our members as a trusted supplier. So yeah, they're getting business without the cost of a full-time salary, and they only have to pay us when the supplier actually makes a sale to our members. So it's actually quite cost effective for them to get their message and brand out in front of our members.
Yeah. And I guess it's like it has to be a win-win as well. So from your perspective, the supplier needs to keep up their end of quality, reliability, all of that sort of stuff. And I suspect that you kind of work for the builder as well. Like it takes time for someone to, how much from you and how much for you and compare. And am I actually getting the quality and all of that sort of stuff? And I suspect because of your relationship with the suppliers, you have a lot of confidence that that supplier delivers a quality product and that supplier delivers a quality product. Or maybe you might even be able to, and this is the longest question in the world, but for instance, if you've got a builder who is requiring sort of some budget type materials versus sort of high-end materials, are you able to guide them to say, well, you're probably better off going in this direction than that direction if you've got to work to a budget and you don't have to go with all of this high-end finishes and fixtures and so forth? Is that the case?
Yes, correct. We have we know which of our suppliers suit various circumstances. So we know if you want windows, then go to this supplier. They do good quality standard windows. If you want your upmarket architectural stuff, go to this guy.
Yeah.
We know plasterers. This guy does a good cheap job. This guy does a perfect job. So you get to choose what you want, and we've got options there, most certainly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating stuff. So I'm a builder. What's the next step that I need to take I'm actually not a builder. I'm just role playing here, just for clarification. I already told you I wasn't a builder, but let's pretend I was. And this makes sense to me, and I don't know why it wouldn't make sense to anybody that if you can have more reliability and save time and just make everything easier and still get quality, why wouldn't you? So it would make sense to explore this possibility. So I contact you. I've got the 1-800 number there. I can email you or what have you. And by the way, folks, we'll make sure we've got all of the 1-800 number and the contact information, website, and everything in the description, so you can just click and go. What are the steps? What's the process the builder goes through? What can they expect as far as an experience when they first contact you? What's the what happens?
Yeah, great question. So, easiest way is to jump on the website tradealliance.com.au and click the join tag today button, throw your details in there, and then we get one of our team to give you a buzz and figure out where you are in terms of location,
Yep.
size, what sort of projects you're working on, and then we're able to talk through which suppliers suit your situation, depending on your needs as well. What a lot of members like to do is send us the next set of plans they're working on for the next job, so we can actually send that out to all of our suppliers, and you can get quotes back, and you can see quite clearly how competitive some of our quotes are. The trick with that is, like, we know these are good quality, reliable suppliers. So if you're just comparing the dollar value by itself, you can get tricked up a little bit, because
Well, it's
our
not
guys
apples
are,
against apples, is it?
and we come across that all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just quickly talking about the geography, because you did mention that you're in Brisbane. I'm assuming, this is a two-part question, that you're in Queensland, but you said you are moving into Sydney, but you mentioned Sydney specifically, not New South Wales. So first part of the question is, if we're even just talking about Queensland, for instance, are you able to support a builder kind of anywhere in Queensland, or do you kind of have pockets because you've only got connections with suppliers in certain spaces? What's the go there?
Yes, southeast Queensland. So from, I don't know, Gympie out to Toowoomba down to Northern Rivers in New South Wales, our suppliers service that whole area. We have tried Northern Queensland before. We just couldn't get the right suppliers and right members. It's just as much work to set up in a capital city as it is a regional city, and obviously there's more suppliers, more members in the larger areas. So definitely the extended southeast Queensland area. We're in Melbourne. We've got a good chunk of suppliers from Melbourne that do the whole of Victoria, because Victoria is a little bit smaller than Queensland. So
a little bit.
most of Victoria, and now we're starting in Sydney as well. And so once that gets established, we'll be able to go further and further out from there. But at the moment, it's mostly Sydney, which is still fairly large.
And has that started, or do you have a start date? What's the story with the builders in Sydney?
We've got suppliers set up. We've got a couple of hundred members there, and
cool.
we want more members so that we can get more feedback from our suppliers and about our suppliers to make sure they're the right ones. So we don't always know right away that this is the perfect supplier. Sometimes it takes a little bit of feedback from our members who've tried them and let us know.
Yeah. So that's interesting in itself. Like, what is some of the feedback that you've gotten from your members? Because I can't imagine that it's all, unicorns and rainbows as soon as you bring on a supplier and everything works perfectly. I'm sure there are challenges. So what is the feedback that you've gotten from some of your members? And I'm sure some of the feedback is reasonable, and I'm sure some of the feedback is unreasonable. What's the examples of both of those bits of feedback?
Yeah, we haven't got to the stage yet where we have a lot of feedback. So believe it or not, when someone
That's a good
joins
thing,
Trade
probably.
Alliance Group, we'll take it to start with.
Yeah.
When someone joins Tag, they don't immediately switch all of their suppliers to Tag suppliers.
Okay.
They try one, then try another, and okay, this one's working, they'll try another. So it's not a bam, I'm changing everything, because that's a massive risk to any builder. They want to have certainty, and so they dip their toe in the water. Yep, that worked. I'll try another. And so we're wanting more members so that we can get a few more toes dipping in and trying the suppliers that we have already set up. So that's where we're at. Yeah, it's not We actually, so sorry, I digress. I'm going back to a previous venture that
That's
we
normally
tried.
my job to digress.
I'm going off on a tangent here. We set up a separate buying group called Platinum Builders Group.
Okay.
And so that was supposed to be sort of the next level above Trade Alliance Group pricing. And it did work well for a couple of years, but then we kept getting the feedback. I'm not changing 20 suppliers all at once. They just,
Yep.
no one wanted to change everything at once.
Yep.
And so, yeah, even though we could get better price, much better pricing than even tag pricing, no one wanted to commit to that big change. And so we're like, okay, I hear you. Tag is here. We've got all these suppliers. Try them as you like. And that's why all of our suppliers are peer reviewed as well. So you can see this is working for all these other members as well.
Sure. There's an obvious benefit, like just having this conversation. There are obvious benefits to the builder, and they don't have to change everything. They can sort of dip their toe in the water and test things and so forth. What's the cost, I suppose, to gain those benefits? Is there a membership cost? What's the model to join TAG?
Yes, it is a membership-based
Yep.
organization. So the membership subscription is $99 per month for a builder. We've
Yep.
got other prices for some of the other trades that are less than that,
Mm-hmm.
but 99 a month. However, it does come with a money-back guarantee. Everyone
Yep.
loves the money-back guarantee.
Yeah.
Ours is if you don't save double your subscription in the first 12 months, then we pay your whole subscription back to you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
there
right.
really
Well, you can't
is
get
no
any
risk.
fairer than that. There's zero risk to the people with that sort of thing. So, final question, because I want to start a tradition. So, you're going to get the Guernsey for the person who started this tradition. So we'll see how we go. But I want to ask this question, and that is, we're talking to builders. Even though you're not a builder, your dad was, you're completely involved in the building industry. What would be the number one bit of business advice you would give a builder? What do you think that you've seen, that you've experienced, maybe from your dad, whatever, that is worth a share for the builders listening?
Yeah, really good question.
Just to
I,
dump you on the spot.
it might have something to do with paying peanuts and you get monkeys.
Okay, let's expand on that.
So my father, wanting to be as frugal as possible in Trade Alliance Group, we employed the cheapest people we could find, and it took so much extra effort to manage them and to train them. And I wonder, what if we just paid someone a decent amount who knew what they were doing? Would we have saved a whole lot of headaches? And from what I hear, a few of our builders also have problems with, that guy just shows up. He's already stoned, and like,
He's already stoned.
uh, yeah. What if we just paid a little bit more for some really good quality work? Could we then, get a whole lot more done? I think that applies to a few
Yeah.
different industries. Yeah.
That's really, really good advice, because people, they don't understand in most cases the false economy of that, of trying the cheap option, and then you've got to do it again. So there's time involved. There's probably cost involved. Not to mention the frustration, and how when you're frustrated trying to get a result that you're not getting, how it takes your eye off the ball for,
Yes.
to take you away from your genius, if you like, what you should be doing. So that's fantastic advice. So
Absolutely.
that's a really good start. So I
And
guess,
yeah.
go. Yeah.
Sorry, I was going to say, and how many people actually like firing someone? So they hold on to this person for much longer than
Yeah.
they ever should as well. And
Yeah.
yeah, it gets worse and worse.
Absolutely. There's that old adage, hire slow and fire fast. And I think most people do the opposite. They hire at the drop of their hat without doing the asking the proper questions and doing the proper tests and so forth. And then they, as you say, they hold onto them for far too long, and it costs them. And I don't know. I've experienced, from an observation point of view, being a coach with a bunch of builders, that when that person does eventually get fired, it's like the morale in the whole business tends to go up. Nothing like a good firing to get everybody singing off the same page of the hymn book. It's a good thing, mate. It was absolutely brilliant talking to. Pretty exciting stuff with the Trade Alliance group. We're going to make sure we'll put the 1-800 number, we'll put the email, we'll put the website tradealliance.com.au in the description. So all people need to do to reach out is to just click on the links that we'll put up there, and as Brett said, you just hit the join tag today. There's a little button at the top of the website there in the nav section, and they'll reach out to you and start the conversation, and have a dip your toe in the water, because for $99 a month. Again, talking about that false economy, the amount of time that you might save and the hassle that you might save, it would be a significantly good investment, I think. So have a talk to Brett and see what happens. So, Brett, thank you very much for taking the time to be on the podcast. It was an absolute pleasure to meet you.
My pleasure. Thank you, Mick. All the best. Keep up the great work.
Thanks very much. So that was Brett Crowther of the Trade Alliance Group. As I said, all of the connection details will be in the description, so you can reach out and have a conversation with them. And I love discovering, not that we discovered Trade Alliance Group, but, learnt about their existence. Companies like that, it's really fantastic to find companies like that have that desire to contribute to the betterment of the building industry. And I love to have all of you become aware of businesses and people like that, because that's what we're all here to do. We're all here to improve the quality of the experience for everybody in the building industry. So that's the builders teams, as well as the clients. This helps everybody. So jump on, have the conversation, and give us some feedback with how you went talking to Tag. We'll be back with another episode of the Toolshed podcast. Before you know it, I'm Mick Hawes from Builders Business Black Belt. That is all. I'm out. Bye for now.
You've been listening to the Toolshed. If this podcast struck a chord with you, make sure you spread the word by sharing it with your mates in the building industry. We love your help to make the building industry better for everyone involved.